Most werewolf stories tell you about the alpha who finds his Luna, destiny written in moonlight and fate. But Sarah's story began with ash. Ash rubbed into her silver fur until it turned muddy brown. Ash mixed with suppressants until her scent became nothing. Ash in her mouth as she swallowed every insult, every shove, every reminder that omegas were worth less than dirt. She was 12 when she made the choice. 12 when she watched her mother's body burn on a pyre meant for traitors, accused of a bloodline that threatened the wrong people. 12 when her guardian spirit appeared in the smoke and taught her the greatest deception of all, how to bury a Luna so deep that even the moon herself would look away. For the past several years, she had been the Blood Moon Pack's favorite target. The Omega who couldn't shift properly, whose wolf emerged patchy and weak. The one who scrubbed floors while others trained, who ate scraps while others feasted, who kept her eyes down while others basked in power. They called her Rabbit, small, scared, prey. And he was the worst of them all. Kieran Blackwood, son of the pack elder, future enforcer, with shoulders that could block doorways and a laugh that could strip paint. He'd been the one to name her Rabbit, the one who'd trip her in the halls, who'd dump his training gear at her feet, who'd corner her with his friends and ask if she even had a wolf, or if she just pretended, like everything else about her seemed fake. Maybe she's not even a real Omega, he'd say, his amber gaze bright with cruel amusement. Maybe she's just broken. If only he knew how right and how wrong he was. Because beneath the ash, beneath the suppressants that poisoned her every morning, beneath the submission she performed like a death dance, lived something ancient. Something that could make the moon weep with recognition. Something that had been waiting, patient as stone, for the eclipse that would change everything. In 3 days, when the blood moon rose and the lunar trial began, when every wolf would be forced to shift under the crimson sky, Sarah's long deception would end. And Kieran Blackwood would be the first to kneel. The training grounds reeked of sweat and dominance. Sarah kept her head down as she dragged the heavy water buckets across the dirt, her arms trembling with the weight. Around her, the pack's warriors sparred under the afternoon sun, their wolves rippling just beneath their skin, ready to burst free at a moment's provocation. "Rabbit!" The voice cracked like a whip across the grounds. "You're dripping water everywhere. Are you too weak to even carry buckets properly?" Kieran stood shirtless in the center ring, his bronze skin gleaming with perspiration from his bout. His training partner, Marcus, lay groaning in the dirt, clearly defeated. But Kieran's attention wasn't on his victory. It was locked on her, bright with that familiar mixture of disgust and amusement. Sarah said nothing. She never did. Words were dangerous when you were hiding this much. "I asked you a question, Rabbit." He vaulted over the ring's barrier in one fluid motion, landing directly in her path. The other warriors stopped their training to watch. They always watched when Kieran decided to play with his favorite toy. She kept her gaze on his feet, bare, powerful, planted wide, the stance of someone who'd never had to make themselves small. "Sorry, Beta Kieran," she whispered, hating how easily the submission came. "I'll clean it." "Beta Kieran?" He laughed, and several others joined in. "I'm not Beta yet, Rabbit, but when I am..." He stepped closer, forcing her to step back or collide with his chest. The bucket sloshed, spilling more water. "Things will be different around here. We won't tolerate weakness anymore." The words hit exactly where he intended. Everyone knew the lunar trial was in 3 days. Everyone knew that beta positions would be assigned based on performance. And everyone knew that omegas who couldn't shift properly during the trial were cast out. Or worse. "Maybe we should test her now," Marcus suggested, having recovered from his defeat. He approached with a predator's grin. "See if she can even manage a partial shift. Leave her alone." The voice came from the edge of the grounds. Thea, the healer's apprentice, stood with her arms crossed. "Don't you have actual training to do instead of harassing workers?" Kieran's jaw tightened. Thea was the pack leader's niece, untouchable, even for him. "Just making sure the Omega knows her place." "Her place is doing her job, which you're preventing." Thea's green eyes flashed dangerously. Or should I tell my uncle you're disrupting pack operations 3 days before the trial? The threat landed. Kieran stepped back, but not before his shoulder knocked the bucket from Sarah's hands. Water exploded across the ground, soaking her threadbare clothes. The laughter that erupted from the warriors felt like claws on her skin. Oops, Kieran said flatly. Better clean that up, Rabbit. With your clothes, since you ruined them anyway. Sarah dropped to her knees immediately, using her soaked tunic to sop up the water. The position put her completely at their mercy, vulnerable, pathetic, exactly where an Omega should be. She heard Kieran's satisfied grunt before he walked away, calling for another sparring partner. But as her hands worked mechanically at the ground, something else worked beneath her skin. Her wolf, her real wolf, stirred like an ocean storm contained in a bottle. 3 more days, she told it. 3 more days and we never kneel again. That night, Sarah slipped from the Omega quarters when the moon was highest. The suppressants she'd taken that morning had worn off enough that she could feel her true nature clawing for release. She needed to run, needed to move, or she'd explode. The ancient grove stood 2 miles from pack territory, a place most wolves avoided, claiming it felt wrong, cursed. But Sarah knew better. It wasn't cursed. It was waiting. She stripped behind a massive oak and finally let go. The shift that came wasn't the pathetic, painful thing she performed for others. This was pure power, ancient strength flowing through her bones. Her wolf emerged massive and pure white, with markings that shimmered in the darkness. A Luna's wolf. The kind that hadn't been seen in 3 generations. She ran until her muscles sang, hunted until her instincts settled, howled until the moon herself seemed to howl back. Here, alone, she could be what she truly was. Beautiful. The word froze her mid-stride. She spun, lips pulled back in a snarl, to find a figure emerging from shadow. For one heart-stopping moment she thought she'd been discovered. Then the wind shifted, bringing his scent. Not Kieran, not anyone from Blood Moon. This wolf smelled of distant mountains, of power so ancient it made her bones ache. He stepped into the pale light, an older man with graying hair and eyes like polished obsidian. "Lower your hackles, young Luna," he said calmly. "I mean no harm. I've been waiting for you to be ready." Sarah's wolf wanted to submit and challenge simultaneously, a confusing amalgam of instincts that told her this man was important, dangerous, essential. "My name is Atlas," he continued, seemingly unbothered by her defensive posture. "For years, I've led a network of wolves in secret. We call ourselves the Shadow Pack. We've been protecting Silvercrest survivors, hiding them across multiple territories. I knew your mother, helped her prepare contingencies before that final night." His expression grew grave. "The blood moon comes, child. And with it, things that have slept will wake. The trial isn't what your pack thinks it is." She shifted back, grabbing her clothes with inhuman speed. "What do you mean?" "I mean the beta selection is a farce. Pack leader Rourke has already chosen. His son, despite the boy's weakness. And Kieran Blackwood, despite his cruelty. The trial is just ceremony." Atlas stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Unless someone challenges it. Unless someone reveals what they really are when the moon turns red." "I can't." The words scraped her throat. "If they know what I am, they'll try to use you, or kill you. Yes." Atlas nodded. "Your mother thought the same. But hiding forever isn't living, child. And the Shadow Pack stands ready. 30 wolves spread across the territory who remember the old ways, who would support a true Luna against corrupt leadership. We've learned something else too. Pack bonds run deeper than most know. In times of great need, wolves can share their strength with their Luna, pooling power for protection." He pressed something into her hand, a small vial filled with liquid that captured the night's essence. "Moon water, 3 drops before the trial. It will burn the suppressants from your system completely. But more than that, suppressants don't destroy power, child. They compress it, like damming a river. Every day you've held back, your power has built. When released all at once." He smiled grimly. "The choice will be yours then. maintain your disguise or become what you were born to be. Before she could respond, he melted back into shadow, leaving only his scent and the vial that seemed to pulse with its own light. Sarah stared at it for a long moment, then tucked it close to her heart. 3 days to decide if she would remain the rabbit or become the wolf that devoured those who'd made her prey. The walk back took longer, her mind churning with possibilities and dangers. As she approached the Omega quarters, she froze. Kieran stood outside, leaning against the building's wall, waiting. "Late night wandering, rabbit?" His voice was deceptively soft. "That's against regulations." Her mind raced. If he reported her, there would be questions, searches. They might find the vial. I couldn't sleep," she whispered, forcing her shoulders to hunch, her body to shrink. "Please, I just needed air." He pushed off the wall, approaching slowly. In the darkness, his features were sharper, more dangerous. "You smell different." Every muscle in her body locked. Had the suppressants worn off too much? Could he sense, like forest, like ... He frowned, something flickering in his gaze. Recognition? Impossible. He'd never smelled her true scent. "I fell," she said quickly. "In the woods. I'm sorry, I'll go clean up." His hand caught her arm as she tried to pass. The touch sent electricity through her body. Not fear, something else. Something her wolf recognized even through the suppressant's haze. "You're shaking," he observed, his grip gentling unconsciously. "Because my wolf wants to tear your throat out and claim you simultaneously," she thought wildly. "Because you're my number not possible. Not him." "I'm cold," she lied. He stared at her for another long moment, then released her. "Get inside. If I catch you out again, I'll report you to the pack leader myself." She fled without another word, her arm burning where he'd touched her. Inside her room, she collapsed against the door, pulling out the vial of moon water with trembling hands. 3 days to decide if revealing herself was worth the risk. 3 days to figure out why her wolf had recognized something in Kieran that made everything infinitely more complicated. 3 days before everything changed forever. The memories came at night, when the suppressants wore thin and her wolf pressed closest to the surface. Sarah curled tighter in her narrow bed, trying to push away the images that Atlas's visit had stirred up. She remembered the smoke most clearly, black and thick, rolling across their family's compound like a living thing. Her mother shoving her into the hidden cellar, hands glowing with Luna power as she whispered frantically, "Stay down, stay quiet, stay hidden, no matter what you hear." She'd been 12, newly shifted, her white wolf still awkward with youth, but already showing signs of the power that would come. The power that made her dangerous to those who craved control. The screams had lasted for hours. When she'd finally emerged, the compound was ash and char. Bodies of her pack, her real pack, Silvercrest, lay twisted in unnatural positions. At the center of it all stood pack leader Rourke of Blood Moon, his hands still dripping with her mother's blood. "Find the daughter," he'd commanded his warriors. "A Luna's power passes through bloodlines. She can't have gone far." But Sarah had already begun her transformation, not of body, but of identity. Using her mother's final gift, a vial of suppressant so powerful it could hide even Luna markers, she'd stumbled into Blood Moon territory 3 days later as a refugee. Just another orphaned Omega seeking shelter after rogues destroyed her pack. They'd believed it because they wanted to, because who would suspect that Rourke's greatest threat was scrubbing his floors? A knock at her door shattered the memories. Sarah jerked upright, heart hammering. It was barely dawn, too early for work assignments. "Open up, Rabbit." Not Kieran, Marcus. Somehow that was worse. She grabbed her work tunic, trying to smooth her hair into something appropriately pathetic. When she opened the door, Marcus stood with 2 other warriors, all wearing enforcer bands. "Random inspection," Marcus announced, pushing past her into the tiny room. "Pack leader's orders, making sure Omegas aren't hoarding resources before the trial." They tore through her meager possessions with unnecessary roughness. her single spare shirt ripped, her small stash of herbs for the chronic stomach problems that explained her daily suppressant use scattered. When one warrior reached for the loose floorboard where she'd hidden the moon water, Sarah's wolf surged so violently she had to bite her tongue to contain it. "Nothing here," the warrior reported, missing the board by inches. Marcus turned to her, but something in his expression had shifted. The usual cruel satisfaction was absent, replaced by something almost like discomfort. "Kieran said you were out last night." Her stomach dropped. Of course he'd reported her, just not officially. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "Nervous about the trial?" Marcus stepped closer, his bulk forcing her against the wall, but the movement seemed more routine than threatening. "You should be. Omegas who can't shift properly get culled, Rabbit. Pack law." He paused and she caught something in his eyes, a flicker of doubt. "Though sometimes—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Pack law is pack law." The other warrior laughed. "Getting soft, Marcus? Next, you'll be suggesting we treat Omegas like equals." Marcus's expression hardened again, but Sarah had seen it, that moment of questioning. "Just stating facts. The weak get culled. Always have." "Always will," the other warrior added with satisfaction. But Marcus didn't echo the sentiment. Instead, he turned away abruptly. "We're done here." Before leaving, he paused at her doorway, not quite meeting her eyes. "The trial changes everything, for all of us." The words seemed to carry weight beyond their surface meaning. "Some changes are necessary, others—" He shook his head and left without finishing. After they left, Thea appeared in the doorway, medical bag in hand. She surveyed the damage with a frown. "Pack your things," she said quietly. "You're moving to the healing ward, assistant quarters." Sarah's eyes widened. "But I'm not—" "You are now. I've already filed the paperwork." Thea's expression was unreadable. Marcus suggested it, actually, said the inspection proved the Omega quarters aren't secure enough for pack assets. Strange, him caring about an Omega's safety. The revelation stunned Sarah. Marcus had suggested protecting her? "The trial is in 2 days," Thea continued. "Things are going to change, Sarah. Be ready." The use of her real name sent chills down her spine. Did Thea know something? But the healer's apprentice was already walking away, leaving Sarah to gather her destroyed belongings. The healing ward sat at the pack's heart, connected to both the main house and the training grounds. Her new room was tiny but private, with a lock. Sarah spent the morning learning basic medicine sorting from Thea, trying to ignore how her wolf grew increasingly agitated as the day wore on. "You're not what you seem," Thea said suddenly while they worked. "Neither am I." Before Sarah could respond, the ward doors burst open. Kieran stumbled in, supported by 2 warriors, blood streaming from deep gashes across his chest and back. "Rogue attack," one warrior gasped. "Full pack. They came from nowhere." Marcus arrived moments later, having heard the commotion. He took one look at Kieran's wounds and his face paled. "Those aren't random rogue marks. That's Northern Territory fighting style." Thea immediately took charge, but her hands shook as she examined Kieran's wounds. "These are too deep. I need—" She looked at Sarah desperately. "I can't heal this level of damage alone." Sarah's mind raced. She could help. Luna power included accelerated healing abilities, but using it would expose her. Kieran's eyes found hers, glazed with pain but somehow still mocking. "Don't let Rabbit touch me," he slurred. "Might make it worse." His words decided her. She turned to leave, but his hand shot out, catching her wrist with surprising strength. "Don't go," he whispered, so quietly only she could hear. "Please." The vulnerability in his voice shattered something inside her. Her wolf howled, recognizing what her human mind kept denying. The bond hummed between them, weak but undeniable even through the suppressants. "Everyone out," Thea commanded suddenly. "I need complete concentration." The warriors filed out, But Marcus lingered at the doorway, watching Sarah with an unreadable expression. "Whatever happens here," he said quietly, "some things are worth protecting, even if it goes against what we've been taught." After he left, Thea turned to Sarah. "I know what you are. My grandmother was from Silvercrest. She recognized your mother's bloodline in you the day you arrived, and I'm not the only one who's suspected. Marcus has been watching you differently lately. I think Kieran's protection of you has him questioning things." Sarah's world tilted. "You've known all this time?" "We've been waiting for the right moment, but if Kieran dies now, Rourke will use it as an excuse to purge anyone he sees as weak or threatening." Thea's eyes were desperate. "Please, I know what he's done to you, but I'll help." The words came before Sarah could stop them. She placed her hands over Kieran's wounds, feeling for the damage beneath. 3 claw marks, deep enough to have nicked organs. Poison in the wounds, wolfsbane mixed with something else. Without intervention, he'd die within the hour. Carefully, so carefully, she let a trickle of Luna power flow. Not enough to fully heal, that would be too obvious. Just enough to purge the poison, to stop the bleeding, to pull him back from death's edge. The effort left her shaking, her wolf desperate to claim what it recognized as hers. Kieran's breathing steadied. His eyes fluttered open, focusing on her with an intensity that made her step back. "Your eyes," he breathed. They glowed. "Delirious from blood loss," Thea said quickly, but Kieran's gaze never left Sarah's face. "Like captured starlight," he whispered. "Beautiful." Before anyone could respond, the doors burst open again. Pack leader Rourke strode in, his presence filling the room like smoke. Behind him came 3 figures that made Sarah's blood freeze. She recognized them, warriors from her mother's execution. But worse was the woman with them. Tall, elegant, with hair like spun gold and eyes like chips of ice. Lyra Shadowmere, from the Northern Territories. "My son?" Rourke's voice held unusual concern. "Stable," Thea reported. "The healing worked." Lyra's gaze swept the room, landing on Sarah with uncomfortable weight. "And who performed this healing? You, apprentice?" I helped," Sarah said quietly, forcing herself to shrink, to look harmless. "Just held supplies." Lyra approached slowly, each step predatory. "You look familiar, little Omega. Have we met?" Sarah shook her head, not trusting her voice. She knew exactly who Lyra was, the Shadow Luna who'd been terrorizing Pax for over a decade, who'd helped orchestrate Silvercrest's destruction. Lyra had been the one to tear her mother's heart from her chest, examining it like a curiosity before storing it away. Lyra reached out, fingers almost touching Sarah's face before Kieran's hand shot up, catching her wrist. "Don't touch what's mine," he growled, still half delirious. Everyone froze. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Rourke laughed, harsh and disbelieving. "Yours?" The Omega question mark. But Lyra's eyes had sharpened with interest. "The trial will be fascinating this year." She pulled free of Kieran's grip. "I've decided to stay for it. As an honored guest, of course." She swept from the room, leaving tension thick as smoke. Rourke followed after ordering increased security for his son. When they were alone again, Thea turned to Sarah urgently. "She knows. Lyra knows who you are." "How?" "Because she was there. The night your mother died. She's the one who—" Thea stopped, eyes wide with horror at what she'd almost revealed. Who what? But Sarah already knew. The memories she'd suppressed crashed back. A golden-haired woman holding her mother's heart in her hand, examining it with cold fascination. "Luna hearts hold special power," Lyra had told Rourke that night. "If preserved correctly, they can fuel a Shadow Luna's magic for years." Sarah's wolf roared inside her, demanding vengeance. The moonwater vial seemed to burn against her skin where she'd hidden it. "The trial isn't random," Thea whispered urgently. "Rourke and Lyra planned this. Shadow Lunas can sense dormant Luna power. She's using the trial to force any hidden Lunas to reveal themselves. It's how she's found victims in other packs. From his bed, Kieran watched them through half-closed eyes, his enhanced hearing catching every word. When Sarah glanced at him, he mouthed a single word. Run. But she couldn't. Not with Lyra here, not with her mother's murderer walking free, not with her mate. No, she refused to acknowledge that. Lying injured because of rogues that smelled suspiciously like Northern Territory wolves. The trial was tomorrow night. One more day to decide, maintain her cover and likely die in the cull, or reveal herself and face the woman who'd torn her mother's heart out. Atlas's words echoed, "Things that have slept will wake." Sarah touched the vial through her shirt. Perhaps it was time to stop running, time to stop being prey, time to become the predator her blood demanded she be. The night before the trial, Sarah couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lyra's face, heard her mother's screams, felt the weight of hiding pressing down on her chest like stones. She slipped from her room in the healing ward, needing air, needing movement. The pack grounds were eerily quiet. Most wolves were resting, preparing for tomorrow's trial. The blood moon would rise at midnight, and with it, every wolf would be compelled to shift, their true nature revealed under its crimson light. The training grounds were empty, except for one figure moving through combat forms in the darkness. Kieran. His wounds from yesterday had healed remarkably fast. Too fast for normal healing, even with her help. She should leave, but something kept her frozen, watching. He moved like water over stone, each strike precise, deadly. But there was something wrong with his form, a hesitation in his left side, a favoring of his right leg. The wounds might be closed, but the damage lingered. "Stop hiding and come here," he said without turning. Sarah's breath caught. She considered running, but his next words stopped her. "I know you're there, Rabbit. Your scent is distinctive." She emerged slowly, ready to flee at the first sign of aggression. But Kieran just continued his forms, sweat gleaming on his skin despite the cool night air. "Couldn't sleep either," he asked, finally stopping to face her. In the darkness, his features seemed softer, less cruel. "Tomorrow changes everything." "For you, maybe." The words slipped out before she could stop them. "You're guaranteed beta position." His laugh was bitter. Nothing's guaranteed, especially not when Lyra Shadowmere is involved. He studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You know who she really is, don't you?" Sarah kept her expression blank, but her heart raced. "She's not just from the Northern Territories," Kieran continued. "She's their Shadow Luna. Started her rise to power about a decade ago. First, she was just another ambitious wolf. Then she discovered how to steal Luna power, to absorb it into herself. Since then, multiple packs have fallen to her, always the same pattern. She arrives as a guest, identifies threats during trials or ceremonies, and then..." He made a cutting motion across his throat. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because tomorrow, during the trial, she'll be watching, looking for specific wolves." His gaze bore into hers. Wolves who shine too bright under the blood moon. He knew. Somehow he knew what she was. Sarah backed away, but Kieran moved faster, catching her arm gently. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "Yesterday, when you healed me, Thea healed you. Thea doesn't have the kind of power that flows like pure energy." His thumb brushed over her wrist, feeling her racing pulse. "How long have you been hiding?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Since you arrived," he said, and her breath stopped. "Right after Silvercrest burned, a traumatized Omega seeking shelter. My father was so proud of his victory that night." Sarah tried to pull away, but his grip, while gentle, was unbreakable. "I was there," he admitted, and her wolf snarled inside her. 13 years old, my first real raid. They told us Silvercrest was harboring rogues, that they were a threat. I believed them until I saw..." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Until I saw what Lyra did to your mother." The admission shattered Sarah's control. She ripped away from him, partial shift taking over. Her nails became claws, her teeth lengthened. "You were there," she snarled. "You watched her die." "I tried to stop it," his voice cracked. "I was 13 and stupid, and I tried. Lyra put me down with one hand, made me watch as she—" He couldn't finish. As she tore her heart out. Sarah's voice was barely human. I heard everything from the cellar, every scream, every plea. "I'm sorry." The words fell between them, inadequate. "When you arrived, I recognized you immediately, the daughter who should have died with her pack." "So you tortured me instead?" Rage burned through her. "I kept attention off you." He stepped forward, ignoring her claws. "Do you think you're the only one who can act? Every insult, every moment of cruelty was calculated to keep others from looking too closely. The pack doesn't question the Omega everyone pities. They don't investigate the girl the future Beta torments. Even Marcus has started questioning the way we treat Omegas. I've seen him watching, doubting. The cruelty is breaking something in him." The revelation hit like ice water. "You're lying." "I'm really not." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a folded paper. "Your intake documents. The real ones. They have your mother's seal on them, hidden but there. My father never checked closely. Why would he? But if Lyra sees these—" Sarah stared at the papers. There, barely visible, was the Silvercrest Luna mark. "I've been destroying evidence," Kieran said quietly. "Every trace that could connect you to Silvercrest. But tomorrow, under the blood moon, no amount of suppressants will hide what you are. Lyra will see, and she'll do to you what she did to your mother. Unless you run, tonight. I've arranged transport to the Eastern Territories. They have no alliance with Lyra. You could hide again? Pretend to be weak while she grows stronger?" Sarah's wolf pushed against her skin. "No. Then you'll die." "Maybe." She pulled out the vial of moon water, watching it shimmer. Or maybe it's time someone stood up to her. Kieran's eyes widened at the sight of the vial. "That's concentrated moon water. It would burn every suppressant from your system, force your true form." "I know what it does. And more than that, when suppressants are burned away all at once, they release the compressed power they've been holding back. Atlas told me something else. In times of desperate need, a pack's bonds allow them to share strength with their Luna. The moment you shift tomorrow, she'll know. She'll challenge you immediately, and pack law says that any wolf can challenge for position during the trial, including the position of Shadow Luna." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "She killed my mother for her power. Maybe it's time someone returned the favor." "You can't fight her. She's absorbed multiple Lunas worth of power over the years. And I've been storing mine, compressed and building." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by fear. "When that dam breaks, it'll be catastrophic." She tucked the vial away. "One way or another, tomorrow ends this." Kieran moved closer, his scent wrapping around her, pine and storm and something wild. "I could help. During the trial, I could—" "You could stay away from me." But even as she said it, her wolf whined in protest. The bond hummed between them, stronger now that she'd acknowledged what he'd really been doing all these years. "I can't." His hand rose to her face, hovering just shy of contact. "My wolf recognized you the moment you arrived. Do you know how hard it's been? Watching you suffer, causing that suffering, knowing it was the only way to keep you safe?" "Don't," she stepped back. "Don't make this something it's not. It's exactly what we both know it is." His eyes flashed with golden warmth. "Why do you think I've never taken a mate? Never even looked at another wolf? My wolf chose you before I even knew what that meant." The admission hung between them, raw and painful. Years of hidden truth, of careful cruelty, of love disguised as hate. "After tomorrow, it won't matter," Sarah said quietly. "Either I'll be dead or everything will change." "Then let me stand with you." "No." She turned to leave, then paused. "But thank you for protecting me, even if your methods were cruel." "Sarah." Her real name on his lips stopped her. When you shift tomorrow, when everyone sees what you really are, know that I'll be the first to kneel. Not because of your power, but because I've been waiting to stop pretending I don't love you. She fled before her wolf could make her respond, before the bond could override her sense. Tomorrow would bring blood and revelation. But tonight, she would prepare for war. The blood moon rose like a wound in the sky. Every wolf and blood moon pack gathered in the ceremonial circle, a massive clearing surrounded by ancient stones that hummed with primal energy. The trial would test every wolf, from the strongest alpha to the weakest omega. Rankings would shift, futures would be decided under the crimson light. Sarah stood with the other omegas at the circle's edge, her whole body vibrating with suppressed power. She hadn't taken the moon water yet. She was waiting for the right moment, when Lyra would be unable to stop what was about to unfold. Pack leader Rourke stood on the raised platform, Lyra beside him like a golden shadow. Her dress seemed to absorb light, and her calculating gaze scanned the crowd with predatory interest. Tonight, Rourke's voice boomed, we determine the future of Blood Moon Pack. The strong will rise, the weak will submit, and those who cannot serve. His gaze found the Omega section, will be culled. Several Omegas whimpered. Beside Sarah, a young wolf named Chen trembled violently. She recognized him, another refugee who'd arrived 2 years ago, his original pack destroyed by rogues. The first trial, Lyra announced, her voice like honey over glass, is transformation. Every wolf must shift under the blood moon's light. Those who cannot achieve full transformation will be marked for removal. The higher-ranked wolves went first. Alphas shifted in explosions of power, their wolves magnificent and proud. Betas followed, strong and steady. Kieran's transformation was particularly impressive, his wolf massive and black as night, amber eyes burning as they found hers across the clearing. Marcus shifted next, but Sarah noticed something different about him. Instead of immediately joining the other betas, his gray wolf positioned itself oddly, closer to the Omega section than his rank required. His eyes held none of their usual cruelty. When another beta snarled at an Omega who'd stumbled, Marcus actually stepped between them, a warning growl rumbling from his chest. The crowd murmured at this break in protocol. Rourke's eyes narrowed at his enforcer's strange behavior. Then came the Omega's turn. One by one, they shifted. Some managed decent transformations, others struggled, their wolves emerging patchy or weak. Chen couldn't shift at all, collapsing in tears as guards marked him for culling. "The rabbit!" someone called out. "Let's see the rabbit try." Sarah stepped forward, feeling every eye on her. Lyra leaned forward with interest. This was it, the moment of choice. She reached for the vial and stopped. Something was wrong. The air smelled different, like smoke and ash and... The attack came from 3 sides at once. Rogues poured into the clearing, dozens of them, their eyes glazed with unnatural light. But these weren't random rogues. Sarah recognized the fighting style, the coordinated movements. Northern Territory wolves, wearing rogue pelts as disguise. Chaos erupted, wolves scattered, some fighting, others fleeing. In the confusion, Sarah saw Lyra smile, a cold, satisfied expression. This was planned. The trial was a trap. A massive rogue lunged for the Omega section. Chen screamed, still unable to shift. Without thinking, Sarah moved. The partial shift came instantly, just enough to give her claws and strength. She met the rogue head-on, tearing through its throat in one motion. But more kept coming, specifically targeting the Omegas. No, not all Omegas. They were herding them, sorting them, looking for something, looking for someone. Brilliant, Lyra's voice carried over the chaos. A Luna would never let innocents die. She'd reveal herself to save them. Sarah understood then. This wasn't about conquering Blood Moon Pack. This was about forcing hidden Lunas to reveal themselves. How many packs had Lyra tested this way? Another rogue charged Chen. Sarah moved to intercept, but Kieran got there first, his black wolf tearing through 3 rogues in seconds. His eyes met hers, a clear message. I'll protect them. You do what you need to do. Then Marcus's gray wolf appeared at Chen's other side, snarling protectively at the approaching rogues. Behind me, Omega, he growled, and there was no mockery in it, only determination. More surprisingly, several other Blood Moon wolves were breaking rank, following Marcus's lead, protecting Omegas instead of maintaining battle formation. Marcus, what are you doing? Rourke roared from the platform. Marcus's wolf turned toward his alpha, and for the first time in his life, spoke against orders. What's right for once? The defiance sent shockwaves through the pack. Marcus, the brutal enforcer, was protecting the weak. The seeds of change Kieran had mentioned were finally sprouting. Sarah's hand closed on the vial. Around her, wolves were dying. Rourke fought viciously, but was being overwhelmed. The rogues were too many, too coordinated. Unless something changed, Blood Moon Pack would fall. She pulled out the vial and drank all 3 drops at once. The effect was instantaneous and agonizing. Years of suppressed power erupted through her system like a volcanic eruption. Her bones cracked, reformed, shattered again. She heard screaming and realized it was her own voice. Then the pain transformed into something else. Power. Raw, ancient, undeniable power. Her transformation wasn't like the others. The very air around her began to shimmer, reality bending toward her as if she were gravity itself. Her wolf emerged slowly, deliberately, massive, pure white, with markings that shifted like living constellations. Her eyes blazed with ancient light, and when she howled, every wolf in the clearing, rogue, pack, alpha, omega, stopped fighting. Because this wasn't just a wolf. This was a Luna in full glory, the kind that hadn't been seen in generations, the kind that could command the moon itself. The rogues immediately retreated, their induced madness breaking under her presence. Several dropped to their bellies in submission. Even the Blood Moon wolves took involuntary steps back. Impossible, someone whispered, but Lyra was smiling wider now, her eyes bright with hunger. There you are, little moon child. I wondered when you'd finally show yourself. She stepped down from the platform, her own transformation beginning. But where Sarah's had been light, Lyra's was shadow and gold. Her wolf was beautiful in a terrible way, larger than any normal wolf, with fur that seemed to devour light and eyes like golden voids. Do you know what I am? Lyra asked, her voice carrying despite her wolf form. I'm evolution. Lunas were too powerful, too dangerous to exist alone, so I learned to take that power, to redistribute it. I've been collecting Luna hearts for over a decade, each one making me stronger. She began to circle Sarah, and Sarah could feel it, a pull on her power, like Lyra was trying to drain her. Your mother's power was particularly sweet, Lyra continued, but yours, compressed for years, building pressure. You're not just a Luna, are you? You're a weapon waiting to explode. The pull grew stronger. Sarah's wolf snarled, fighting against it, but she could feel her power being siphoned away. Submit, Lyra commanded. Kneel, and I'll make your death quick. Sarah's legs trembled, her wolf whimpering as more power was drawn out. Around them, other wolves were kneeling, compelled by Lyra's stolen strength. All except one. Kieran's black wolf stood firm, moving between Sarah and Lyra. You want her power? He growled. Take mine first. The bond, Lyra laughed. How touching. Yes, I'll take you both. Bonded power is even sweeter. She pulled harder, and Kieran howled in pain as his energy began flowing toward her. But something unexpected happened. As his power mixed with Sarah's in Lyra's pull, it created a feedback loop. The bond, instead of weakening them, began amplifying their combined strength. Sarah felt it, Kieran's power flowing into her even as Lyra tried to steal it. Not taking, but giving. Freely offered through their bond. What? Lyra stumbled, her pull faltering. That moment of weakness was all Sarah needed. She stopped resisting Lyra's pull, and instead reversed it, using their connection to flood Lyra with years of compressed, unfiltered Luna power all at once. Lyra's golden eyes widened in shock, then pain. Too much. The explosion of power lit up the night like a second moon. The silence that followed was absolute. When the light faded, Lyra lay unconscious in human form, her body smoking from the overload. Every wolf in the clearing remained frozen, staring at Sarah's magnificent form. She stood over Lyra's unconscious body, her white coat still shimmering with residual power, markings flowing like captured constellations across her fur. The blood moon itself seemed to pulse in rhythm with her breathing. Then, one by one, they began to kneel. It started with the Omegas. Chen first, tears streaming down his face as he dropped to his belly. Then the Betas, their heads bowing low. Marcus was among the first, his gray wolf's submission genuine rather than forced, his transformation from oppressor to protector finally complete. Even the Alphas, proud and powerful, lowered themselves before her. Pack leader Rourke was the last to remain standing, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You," he snarled. "You're the Silvercrest brat, the one who escaped." Sarah shifted back to human form, but unlike normal transformations that left wolves vulnerable and naked, pure energy wrapped around her like armor, forming a dress of light. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of generations of Lunas. "I am Seraphina Silvercrest," she announced. "Daughter of Luna Celeste, heir to the Silvercrest pack you slaughtered. And I challenge you, Rourke Bloodmoon, for the crime of murder and the wrongful taking of power." "You can't challenge me," Rourke spat. "The trial is for ranking, not—" "Pack Law, Article 7, Thea spoke up from the crowd, her healer's robes torn but her voice steady. "Any wolf may challenge for leadership if they can prove the current leader gained power through deception or murder." She held up a leather journal. "My grandmother's records. Detailed accounts of the night Silvercrest fell. The peaceful pack you claimed harbored rogues? They were celebrating the youngest prince's first shift. The Luna you said attacked first? She was singing moon songs with her children when you arrived." Murmurs rippled through the pack. Many of the older wolves looked stricken. They remembered that night, remembered the stories they'd been told. "Lies," Rourke growled, but his voice lacked conviction. "Truth," Atlas emerged from the shadows at the clearing's edge, accompanied by 24 wolves. "The Shadow Pack bears witness. We've protected the survivors of Silvercrest across multiple territories, waiting for their true Luna to emerge." Behind him, wolves began shifting to human form. Sarah gasped as she recognized faces from her childhood. Guards who'd been on patrol during the attack, servants who'd escaped through hidden passages, even her mother's beta, grown old but still strong. "We witness," they said in unison. "We remember." Rourke's face contorted. "It doesn't matter. I've led this pack. I've made us strong." "You've made us cruel," Kieran interrupted, stepping forward. His transformation back to human form was smooth, controlled. "You taught us that power meant stepping on the weak, that strength meant causing fear. Look around, Father." The word dripped with disgust. "Your own pack doesn't respect you. They obey because they're terrified, because you cull anyone who shows disagreement, because you allied with monsters like her." He gestured to Lyra's unconscious form. "How many packs has she destroyed using your resources? How many innocent wolves have died because you wanted more power? You dare." "I dare because someone should have dared long ago." Kieran moved to stand beside Sarah, not behind her, but as an equal. "I challenge you as well, for the crime of forcing me to watch a mother murdered, for making me complicit in hiding genocide, for turning me into someone cruel enough that my own mate couldn't recognize my protection as love." Sarah's breath caught. He was publicly acknowledging their bond, making himself vulnerable. Rourke laughed, ugly and harsh. "Two pups think they can take me? I've been alpha for—" His words cut off as more wolves stepped forward. "I challenge you," Thea said clearly, "for forcing healers to let wolves die if they couldn't pay your taxes." "I challenge you," Marcus added, stepping forward with newfound conviction. "For years, I enforced your cruel laws, hurt those weaker than me. But watching Kieran protect her, seeing the truth hidden in plain sight, it broke something in me. Or maybe it fixed something that was broken. I challenge you for making us weapons instead of protectors, for turning us into monsters." His voice cracked with genuine emotion. "I've done terrible things under your orders, but tonight I choose to be better. The Omegas I tormented deserve justice." One by one, wolves stepped forward with grievances. The widows whose mates had died in meaningless territorial disputes. The orphans whose parents had been culled for weakness. The refugees who'd been treated as servants despite their original ranks. By the end, half the pack stood in challenge. Rourke's control snapped. He shifted with a roar, his wolf large and scarred, teeth bared. "Then I'll kill you all." He lunged for Sarah, but she was ready. The compressed power hadn't just built strength, it had built control. She shifted mid-leap, meeting him in the air. They crashed together, a tangle of fur and fury. But this wasn't really a fight. Rourke was strong, yes, experienced certainly. But Sarah was something beyond normal pack dynamics. She was Luna-born, moon-blessed, and carrying power that sang through her veins like captured lightning. She let him attack first, dodging with fluid grace. Let the pack see his violence, his lack of control. When he grew frustrated, leaving himself open, she struck once, precise, decisive. Her teeth found his throat, not to kill but to force submission. Rourke's wolf thrashed, then stilled. She could feel his pulse against her teeth, rapid with fear. "Submit," she commanded through the link all alphas shared. For a moment she thought he would. His wolf recognized her superiority, wanted to bare its throat. But Rourke's human pride was stronger. With a violent twist he broke free, shifting human as he stumbled back. "Never," he gasped. "I'd rather die than submit to a—" The attack came from behind. Lyra, conscious but weak, had dragged herself up. Her claws, still partially shifted, went for Sarah's exposed back. Kieran moved faster than thought. He took the strike meant for Sarah, claws raking across his chest, the same place the rogues had wounded him. This time, the cuts went deeper. This time, they hit his heart. "No!" Sarah's scream shattered the night. She caught him as he fell, his blood soaking into the earth. Everything went white. The power that erupted from Sarah wasn't controlled this time. It was raw, primal, fueled by rage and mate bond agony. The moon itself seemed to scream with her. But then something extraordinary happened. Every wolf in the clearing, even former enemies, stepped forward. The pack bonds Atlas had spoken of activated, their combined strength flowing into her, not because she commanded it, but because they chose it. Even Marcus pushed his power toward her, tears on his face. "For every Omega I hurt," he whispered, "let this be the beginning of redemption." When the light faded, Lyra was simply gone, not dead, but banished, her form scattered to shadow and sent flying beyond the territory borders. Rourke lay unconscious, his wolf forcibly ripped from him and submitted. But Sarah saw none of it. She cradled Kieran's body, her tears falling like drops of light. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't you dare leave me. Not now, not when I finally understand." His eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain. "Worth it," he managed. "You're safe." "I'm not safe without you, you idiot." She pressed her hands to his wounds, pushing Luna power into them, but the damage was too severe. "Please, please, I can't." "Sarah." His hand found her face. "My mate, my moon." The pack had formed a circle around them, wolves whimpering in sympathy. The bond between them was visible now, threads of light growing dim as Kieran faded. "There's a way," Atlas said suddenly, "an old way, forbidden, but possible." Sarah looked up, desperate. "Tell me." "A Luna can share her immortality with her true mate, but it will bind you forever. Your lives, your power, your souls, completely merged. If one dies, both die. If one suffers, both suffer." "Do it." "Sarah," Thea warned, "you don't understand. This isn't just marriage or mating. This is—" "I know what it is." Sarah looked down at Kieran, who was barely breathing. "He protected me through cruelty. I hid from what we were. I won't hide anymore." She bit her own wrist, letting blood flow like liquid light. then pressed it to Kieran's lips. By moon and blood, by soul and spirit, I share my life with you. What is mine becomes yours. What is yours becomes mine. In death and life, in darkness and light, we are one. The words were ancient, pulled from ancestral memory. As Kieran drank, the bond exploded into something more. The pack gasped as light engulfed both of them, their forms merging and separating in waves of power. When it ended, Kieran's wounds were healed. But more than that, his eyes now held flecks of celestial light among the amber. His hair bore streaks of white. He was no longer just an alpha wolf. He was Luna bonded, the first male to ever bear such a mark. They rose together, hand in hand, facing their pack. Rourke was conscious, but remained on his knees, his wolf completely submitted. The choice was clear: exile or death. Exile, Sarah decided, but marked. She pressed a hand to his forehead, burning a crescent into his skin. Let everyone know what you've done. Let no pack take you in. Rourke fled without a word, broken and defeated. As dawn approached, the blood moon fading to normal, Sarah addressed her pack, for they were hers now, by right of challenge and choice. Blood Moon Pack is dissolved, she announced. Today we become something new. A pack where strength protects rather than punishes. Where omegas are valued, not abused. Where refugees find home, not servitude. What will we be called? Chen asked, his voice stronger than she'd ever heard it. Sarah looked at Kieran, then at the survivors of Silvercrest, the reformed wolves of Blood Moon, the Shadow Pack members who'd protected her secret. She saw Marcus standing among them, no longer an enforcer, but a protector, his transformation complete. Eclipse Pack, she decided, where shadow and light meet as equals. The howl that rose from the assembled wolves shook the earth itself, not a howl of submission or fear, but of celebration, of hope, of a new beginning born from patient suffering. The week following the trial brought changes that rippled through the territory like aftershocks. Eclipse Pack was more than a name. It was a complete restructuring of everything Blood Moon had been. But change, Sarah learned, came with its own set of fangs. She stood in what had been Rourke's office, now stripped of his ostentatious displays of power. Maps covered every surface, marked with refugee routes, resource distributions, and patrol schedules that Thea had helped her develop. The healer had become her closest advisor, along with Marcus, whose transformation from enforcer to protector had become the symbol of their pack's redemption. 17 requests for sanctuary just this morning, Marcus reported, setting another stack of papers on her desk. His entire demeanor had changed. Where once he'd stood to intimidate, now he stood to shield. Words spread about what happened to Lyra, packs with hidden lunas or omegas facing culls. They're all looking to us. We can't take them all, Kieran said from his position by the window. The morning light caught the white streaks in his hair, a permanent reminder of their soul bond. We're already stretching resources with the Silvercrest survivors and Shadowpack integration. We can't turn away wolves seeking safety, Sarah countered. Not when we know what it's like to have nowhere to go. A knock interrupted them. Chen entered, no longer the trembling Omega but still nervous in his new role as refugee coordinator. Luna, there's a situation at the border. A pack of 20, led by someone claiming to know you. They're unusual. Sarah frowned. Unusual how? They won't shift to wolf form, at all, and their leader... Chen hesitated. She says her name is Astrid Silvercrest. The name hit Sarah like ice water. That's impossible. My cousin Astrid died in the attack. That's what we thought about you, Thea pointed out gently. Sarah was already moving, Kieran close behind. At the border, they found the group Chen had described. 20 wolves maintaining human form despite protocol demanding they show their wolves for identification. At their head stood a woman with dark hair streaked premature white, her left arm ending at the elbow, scars covering most of her visible skin. Astrid? Sarah breathed. The woman's eyes, pale like all Silvercrest lunas, filled with tears. Hello, little moon. You grew up beautiful. They collided in an embrace that nearly knocked Sarah over. Astrid was real, solid, alive. But when Sarah pulled back, she saw the damage more clearly. Burn scars covered Astrid's neck, and her remaining hand trembled with constant small tremors. "How?" Sarah asked. "Lyra captured me during the attack, before she'd perfected killing Lunas." Astrid's voice was rough, damaged. "She took my wolf, Sarah. Literally ripped it from my soul to add to her collection. It was one of her first successful extractions, making her stronger. I survived, but barely. These others found me over the years." She gestured to her group. "We're all the same. Wolves who've had their spirits torn away by Shadow Lunas. We can't shift because there's nothing to shift into." "But you escaped," Sarah said, still processing. 3 years after she took my wolf. She thought I was broken, harmless. But losing your wolf doesn't mean losing your mind, or your desire for vengeance. I spent the next 4 years tracking her, learning to fight without claws, to hunt without enhanced senses. I had to become more human to survive, and humans, I learned, can be remarkably dangerous when motivated. Kieran inhaled sharply. "I've heard of this. Shadow Lunas can separate wolf from human, stealing the power while leaving the person alive, but incomplete." "Broken," one of Astrid's companions said bitterly. "That's the word you're looking for." "Not broken," Sarah said firmly. "Wounded, and wounds can heal." She took Astrid's remaining hand. "Welcome home." But integrating 20 wolfless wolves proved more challenging than expected. Some pack members, especially former Blood Moon wolves, saw them as reminders of what could be taken away. Others were actively hostile, viewing them as not truly pack anymore. The situation exploded 3 days later during evening meal. A former Blood Moon beta named Garrett knocked into one of Astrid's group, sending their food flying. "Watch where you're going, halfling," he sneered. "Oh wait, you can't smell where people are anymore, can you?" "Stop," Sarah commanded, but Garrett was already worked up. "Why are we harboring these cripples? They can't hunt, can't patrol, can't even shift. They're draining resources that real wolves need." The dining hall went silent. Sarah felt her wolf rise, ready to force submission, but Astrid stepped forward first. "You want to see what a halfling can do?" she asked quietly. Despite missing her wolf, something dangerous flickered in her eyes. 4 years of learning to fight without claws taught me things. Humans developed weapons for a reason, Beta Garrett. She moved with the fluid grace of someone who'd retrained every instinct. Her remaining hand held a dinner knife that she'd placed at Garrett's throat before he could blink. Not supernatural speed, but perfect efficiency of movement, no wasted motion. "Adaptation," she whispered, "and years of practice." Marcus stepped forward then, his voice carrying new authority. "Enough, both of you. Garrett, you're on border patrol for the next month, night shift only." He turned to address the room. "And let me be clear, I spent years as Rourke's enforcer, hurting those I saw as weak. I know what cruelty looks like because I perfected it. But these wolves aren't weak. They're survivors. Anyone who has issue with our wolfless members can go through me first." The transformation in Marcus was complete. From the pack's most feared enforcer to its fiercest protector of the vulnerable. His redemption had become Eclipse Pack's redemption. Later that night, Sarah found Astrid on the roof, staring at the moon. "You've changed," Astrid said. "The little girl who used to cry when she stepped on flowers is now commanding wolves with a look. I had to become someone else to survive." "No," Astrid corrected. "You became who you were always meant to be. Your mother would be proud." They sat in comfortable silence until Astrid spoke again. "There's something you should know. About Lyra. She's not gone." Sarah tensed. "I scattered her essence." "You scattered her current form. But Shadow Lunas aren't like normal wolves anymore. After years of absorbing power, they're more parasite than person. She'll reform eventually, finding a new host, growing strong again. And when she does, she'll come for you." "How do you know this?" Astrid's smile was grim. "Because I spent 4 years hunting her. I've seen her regenerate twice before. She always comes back, usually within a year. each time stronger, more careful. Before Sarah could respond, howls erupted from the eastern border. Alert howls. Intruders, many of them. They ran to investigate, finding the border patrol faced off against 40 unknown wolves. At their head stood someone Sarah recognized with a sinking heart. Alpha Carlisle of the Northern Territories, Lyra's former second in command. "Luna Serafina," he called out, his voice carrying threat. "You have something that belongs to us." "Lyra belongs to no one," Sarah replied, Kieran appearing beside her, their bond allowing them to sense each other's movements. "Not Lyra." Carlisle smiled, showing too many teeth. "The 20 wolfless abominations you're harboring. They're Northern Territory property." "People aren't property," Kieran snarled. "They are when they signed contracts. Blood contracts, offering service in exchange for sanctuary after losing their wolves. It's an old law, predating even pack territories. They defaulted when they fled. We're here to collect." Astrid stepped forward. "We signed under duress while missing our wolves. The contracts aren't valid." "Pack law says otherwise." Carlisle pulled out documents marked with bloody thumbprints. "Blood contracts are binding regardless of circumstances. They have 3 days to return voluntarily, or we take them by force." After they left, Sarah convened an emergency council. The contracts were real. Thea confirmed their validity under traditional pack law. The wolfless had indeed signed away their freedom in desperation. "There has to be a loophole," Marcus insisted, his protective instincts now fully awakened. Pack law wasn't meant to enable slavery. "Actually," Atlas said, having arrived to help, "there is one way. If they become full members of Eclipse Pack through the Blood Moon ritual, they'd be under our protection. Northern Territory couldn't touch them without declaring war." "The Blood Moon ritual requires shifting," Thea pointed out. "They can't—" "Unless we give them new wolves," Sarah said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at her. Not their original wolves, but what if we could share, like I shared my immortality with Kieran? "That's never been done," Atlas said slowly. "The soul bond between mates is unique, but the principle might work." Sarah's mind raced. Luna power is about connection, about binding pack together. What if I could bind their human spirits to willing wolf spirits? We've already seen pack bonds can share power. It happened during the trial when everyone helped me. "You mean create artificial wolf bonds?" Thea looked intrigued but worried. "The risk." "I'll volunteer," Chen said immediately, "to share my wolf with one of them, if it's possible." "As will I," Marcus added, surprising everyone. "I have strength to spare and debts to pay." One by one, others volunteered. By dawn, they had 20 volunteers willing to attempt something never tried before, sharing their wolf spirits with those who'd lost theirs. The ritual would have to happen tomorrow night, under the waning moon. They'd have one chance to make it work before Carlisle's deadline. "It could kill you," Kieran said quietly when they were alone. "Channeling that much Luna power, creating 20 new bonds." "It could," Sarah agreed. "Or it could prove that Eclipse Pack really is about unity between different kinds of wolves." He pulled her close, their bond humming with shared worry and determination. "Then we do it together. Your power and mine, combined." "Together," she agreed, knowing that tomorrow would either forge something unprecedented or destroy everything they'd built. The waning moon hung like a broken promise in the sky. 20 pairs stood in the ritual circle, the wolfless refugees paired with Eclipse Pack volunteers. Sarah stood at the center with Kieran, their joined hands already glowing with combined Luna power. Around the circle's edge, the entire pack had gathered, including a smugly watching Carlisle and his Northern Territory wolves, who'd arrived to witness what they assumed would be Eclipse Pack's failure. "This is unprecedented," Atlas murmured to Thea. "In all my years, I've never heard of anyone attempting to create new wolf bonds." Astrid stood paired with Chen, her single hand gripping his tightly. "If this doesn't work—" "It will work," Chen said firmly. "Luna Sarah doesn't fail." Marcus stood paired with one of the younger wolfless, a girl who'd lost her wolf at 15. "Whatever happens," he said quietly. This is right. This is what pack should be. But Sarah was far from confident. The power required for what she was attempting made her previous achievements look like parlor tricks. She was trying to forge connections between souls that were never meant to connect, to create artificial bonds that mimicked the natural wolf spirit. Begin, she commanded, her voice carrying power that made every wolf present shiver. She and Kieran raised their joined hands, calling on their merged power. Energy spiraled up from their forms, creating a column that pierced the night sky. The moon itself seemed to pulse in response. By my right as Luna, by the blood of Silvercrest that flows through me, by the bonds that tie pack to pack and wolf to wolf, I call upon the ancient packs, Sarah intoned, the words coming from ancestral memory. Let those who were severed be made whole. Let those who would share do so freely. Let the broken be reforged. The power flowed from her into the circle, wrapping around each pair. She could feel the volunteers' wolves, confused but willing, trusting their Luna's guidance. She could feel the emptiness in the wolfless, gaping wounds in their souls where their animals had been torn away. Carefully, delicately, she began to weave. Not replacing what was lost, but creating bridges. Shared pathways where human and wolf could coexist across two bodies instead of one. The first connection sparked between Astrid and Chen. Chen gasped as he felt Astrid's emptiness, while Astrid cried out as she felt the warmth of a wolf spirit for the first time in years. But the connection was unstable, threatening to collapse. More power, Sarah gritted out, and Kieran responded, pushing everything he had through their bond. One by one, connections formed. Each one took more from Sarah, draining her reserves. By the 10th pairing, she was shaking. By the 15th, blood ran from her nose. By the 18th, she could barely stand. Stop, Astrid commanded, seeing her cousin's state. We can survive without... No. Sarah's voice was iron. All or none. Pack means everyone. The 19th connection nearly killed her. She felt her own wolf faltering, her Luna power guttering like a candle in wind. The 20th. She collapsed. But as she fell, something extraordinary happened. Without prompting, every wolf in Eclipse Pack stepped forward. The pack bonds that had activated during the trial responded again, but stronger, more controlled. Atlas had been right. In times of desperate need, pack bonds could share strength. Marcus was the first to offer his power, pressing it toward his Luna without hesitation. For every wrong I've done, he said, let this make it right. Chen followed, then others. Even some Northern Territory wolves, moved by the display, found themselves contributing despite Carlyle's snarls. The final connection snapped into place with a sound like thunder. Then came the transformations. It wasn't like normal shifting. The wolfless didn't transform into their own wolves. Those were gone forever. Instead, they took on partial characteristics of their paired wolf. Astrid's eyes glowed with Chen's warm brown. Her remaining hand sprouted claws. She stood taller, stronger, not fully wolf, but no longer purely human. Hybrids, Carlyle breathed in horror. You've created abominations. We've created survivors, Sarah corrected, struggling to her feet with Kieran's support. And according to pack law, they've completed the blood moon ritual. They're full Eclipse Pack members now. This won't stand, Carlyle snarled. The Northern Territories will... His words cut off as one of his own wolves stepped forward. A young female named Marie, barely out of adolescence. I request sanctuary, she said clearly, in Eclipse Pack. The declaration sent shockwaves through both groups. Carlyle turned on her with rage. You dare... I've seen what Eclipse Pack offers, Marie continued, her voice gaining strength. Unity instead of domination. Healing instead of harm. I'm not the only one. She looked back at the Northern Territory wolves. How many of you are tired of being tools for power-hungry alphas? 3 more stepped forward, then 5, then a dozen. Carlyle's rage turned to panic. You can't. This is treason. This is choice, another defector said. Something we never had under Lyra or you. The situation was spiraling toward violence when a new voice cut through the tension. Ancient, powerful, and deeply amused. My, what interesting children you all are. Everyone spun toward the voice. An elderly woman stood at the circle's edge, though no one had seen her approach. Her hair was white as fresh snow, her eyes like captured starlight, and power radiated from her like heat from a forge. Atlas dropped to his knees immediately. Elder Luna Morrigan. Sarah's breath caught. Morrigan was legend, the oldest living Luna, said to be over 200 years old, who disappeared decades ago. She'd been watching, Atlas had mentioned once, from afar, waiting for the right moment to return. "Rise, young Atlas," Morrigan said warmly. "I'm too old for such formality." Her gaze found Sarah. "So, you're Celeste's daughter. You have her eyes, but your grandmother's audacity." "Elder. Just Morrigan, dear. I've been watching tonight's display from the spirit realm. Fascinating work, creating hybrid bonds. Crude but effective. Your mother would be scandalized and proud in equal measure." She walked into the circle, examining the newly bonded pairs with interest. It's been centuries since anyone's tried anything this creative with Luna powers. The last was my own grandmother, who bound human and wolf to create the first werewolves. That stopped everyone cold. "Oh yes," Morrigan smiled at their shock. "Did you think we always existed? We were created, dear ones. Human shamans binding wolf spirits to themselves for power. The first Lunas were the shamans who succeeded without dying." She turned to Carlyle. "Run along, little Alpha. Your presence bores me. Take whatever wolves still follow you and go. But know that Eclipse Pack is under my protection now. Any action against them is action against me." Carlyle fled without another word, taking only a handful of his original 40 wolves. When they were gone, Morrigan approached Sarah and Kieran. "You two have done something remarkable here. Not just the soul bond. That's been done before, though rarely. But this." She gestured to the hybrid bonded pairs. "This is evolution, the next step in what we are." "Will they be stable?" Sarah asked anxiously. "The bonds?" "With time and practice, yes. They'll never be traditional wolves, but they'll be something new. Something that might be needed for what's coming." "What's coming?" Morrigan's expression grew grave. "Lyra isn't the only Shadow Luna. She was part of an entire faction that emerged over the past decade, wolves who learned to steal power rather than earn it. They believe regular Lunas are too dangerous to exist. They've been systematically hunting and draining Lunas. You've drawn their attention now." She pulled out an ancient scroll. "This contains the location of every known Luna in hiding. 12, not counting yourself. They'll need to be warned, offered sanctuary if desired. The Shadow Lunas are mobilizing. War is coming, whether we want it or not." "Then we'll be ready," Sarah said firmly. "Will you?" Morrigan studied her. "You nearly died creating 20 bonds. The Shadow Lunas have absorbed powers from dozens of victims each. You'll need more than courage." "She has more," Kieran said. "She has Pack. Not just Eclipse, but every wolf who believes in something better than the old ways." Morrigan smiled. "Perhaps. We'll see." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and dear, your mother's heart still beats." Sarah's world tilted. "What?" "Shadow Lunas don't destroy Luna hearts. They preserve them, using them as power sources. If Lyra had your mother's heart, it's now stored somewhere in the Northern Territories. Food for thought." She vanished between one blink and the next, leaving chaos in her wake. "My mother's heart," Sarah whispered, legs shaking. "We'll find it," Astrid said immediately, her new hybrid strength steadying her cousin. "All of us. That's what Pack does." As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of hope, Sarah looked around at her pack, wolves, hybrids, and humans who'd chosen to stand together. They were bruised, exhausted, and facing an uncertain future. Chen approached, his eyes bright with tears and joy. "Luna, I can feel my wolf in Astrid, and her strength in me. It's like we're both more than we were." "That's exactly what you are," Sarah said. and exactly what Eclipse Pack will be. Marcus stood with his paired wolfless, the girl now bearing traces of his gray wolf's strength. "This is redemption," he said quietly. "Not just for them, but for all of us who lost our way." The sunrise revealed messengers approaching from multiple directions. Word of tonight's miracle was already spreading. Packs seeking alliance, wolves seeking sanctuary, and somewhere out there, Shadow Lunas planning retaliation. War was coming, but for the first time in generations, the Lunas wouldn't face it alone. 6 months later, the Eclipse Pack territory had tripled in size, its borders now encompassing 3 merged packs and 2 refugee settlements. The main compound bustled with activity as wolves of every designation worked side by side, alphas teaching omegas combat techniques, hybrids leading patrols with their unique sensory abilities, and former enemies now sharing meals as family. Sarah stood on the highest balcony, watching the organized chaos with satisfaction. Her white hair, fully white now, the price of channeling so much Luna power, caught the morning breeze. Beside her, Kieran traced lazy circles on her expanded belly. Twins, Thea had confirmed that morning, both showing signs of Luna markers. "Twin Lunas haven't been born in 300 years, Kieran mused. "Our children will be legends before they take their first breath." "Our children will be whatever they choose," Sarah corrected. "That's the world we're building." Below, she could see Astrid training the newest hybrid pairs. The process had been refined, no longer requiring Sarah to nearly die each time. The hybrid program had attracted wolves from across the continent, those who'd lost their wolves to Shadow Lunas or accidents, finding new hope in shared bonds. Chen had become something unprecedented, a hybrid who could fully shift by channeling through his bond with Astrid. They'd become Eclipse Pack's strongest warrior pair, their combined fighting style unpredictable and devastating. Marcus approached from the doorway, fully embracing his role as Beta. His transformation from cruel enforcer to fierce protector had become the symbol of Eclipse Pack's philosophy that anyone could choose to be better. The Northern Territory envoys have arrived. In the council room, 3 nervous wolves awaited. Sarah recognized none of them. Carlyle's reign had ended bloodily 2 months prior, overthrown by his own pack when they learned he'd been collaborating with Shadow Lunas. Luna Serafina, the lead envoy, bowed low. "We come seeking alliance and to return something that belongs to you." She produced a crystal container, within which pulsed a still-beating heart surrounded by ethereal light. Sarah's knees nearly buckled. "My mother's..." "Found in Carlyle's personal vault. We believe he took it from Lyra's stores when she fell." The envoy's voice was gentle. "Our new Alpha wishes you to know that the Northern Territories reject the old ways. We seek to join the Eclipse Alliance." The Alliance, 5 packs now, with 3 more considering, all united under the principle that strength meant protection, not domination. "Tell your Alpha we accept," Sarah said, cradling the container. "And thank you." That night, under the full moon, they performed the ritual. Using Morrigan's instructions and the combined power of every Luna in the Alliance, 4 had come out of hiding to join them. They returned Celeste's heart to the spiritual realm where it belonged. Sarah felt her mother's presence for just a moment, warm and proud, and finally at peace. "She sees what you've built," Morrigan said, appearing as she always did without warning. "She's proud." "It's not finished," Sarah said. "The Shadow Lunas are still out there. Lyra will return." "Yes," Morrigan agreed, "but look what you've accomplished in 6 months. Imagine what you'll do in 6 years." She wasn't wrong. Eclipse Pack had become a beacon, a promise that change was possible. The hybrid program offered hope to the wolfless. The integration of all designations proved that hierarchy didn't require cruelty, and the alliance grew stronger each day. "When the Shadow Lunas come," Kieran said, his hand finding Sarah's, "they won't face a single Luna or even a single pack. They'll face a united front." From the courtyard came the sound of howling, not the mournful cries of the oppressed, but the joyful song of the free. Hybrids and full wolves, alphas and omegas, all voices raised as one. Sarah looked at her family, Kieran, her mate and anchor, Astrid, her cousin and warrior, Chen, the Omega who'd become so much more, Thea, the healer who'd kept faith, Marcus, proof that people could change, Atlas and his shadow pack, protectors in the dark, and all the others who'd chosen hope over fear. "Let them come," she said softly, her children stirring within her as if in agreement. "We'll be ready." The moon shone down on Eclipse Pack, its light no longer revealing divisions, but illuminating unity. And somewhere in the distance, a lone wolf heard their song and began the journey home. The rabbit had become the moon, the Omega had become the Luna, and the world would never be the same. Thank you so much for listening. I truly hope you enjoyed the story. You may have noticed I used a different voice for the narration in this and the last few videos. Many of you shared concerns about background noise in the previous voice, so I wanted to make the listening experience smoother and more immersive. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did this change work for you, or did you prefer the earlier voice? Let me know in the comments. Your feedback means a lot. Until the next story, with love, Sarah.